Hey everyone, I'm Aiden. I'm one of the co-founders here at Fellow. I'm super excited to show you what we've built today. We're launching Fellow version 3.2, and you're gonna be the first to see it in action. But what I wanna do today, very briefly, is talk to you about the mission of what we're doing. How do we figure out what it is that we wanna build? If you could imagine with me, the world's greatest meeting host, like this world-class person lives somewhere on the planet, and they're just amazing at the art of masterfully crafting the best possible meetings. And what we mean by that is they're productive, they're effective, they're great use of everyone's time, they're inclusive, they move work forward, and when you go to them and you come out of them, you are just completely energized. What we're trying to do is we're taking all the elements of what that person would do, and we're making it so that Fellow, the software, does that for you and for everybody who uses it. We're democratizing the concept of this assistant that is the world's greatest meeting host. And so today you're gonna see elements of it and watch that throughout the demo today. And without further ado, let's dig right in. Manuela, it's good to see you again.
Aiden, I can't believe we're back with more updates. I'm really excited to see what you have to show us today.
I think people hear this every single time, but definitely my favorite part of the job.
Yeah, we just get to show off the amazing features that the team has built over the last month. So I'm really excited about this update. And I've heard, because I haven't seen all the features, but I've heard that there are some really big things coming.
You know, of course, like, you know, just to recap the last few months for folks, you know, a lot has happened at Fellow. We've tripled our team size. We raised $24 million in venture financing from some of the world's best investors. We have many millions of meeting notes all taking on Fellow. Like, things have really expanded across the board. And of course, we're just like doing things a lot faster, releasing a lot more functionality, and really listening to all of the feedback that everybody out there, our users. Thank you for continuously sending us this stuff. I think you'll be very impressed with what we're gonna show you today. And it's a 100%. Lot more stuff. There's so much.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's joining us today. We wouldn't be here without your support. So let's get into it. Show us.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Fellow.
You know, Fellow, what we're trying to do is we're trying to turn Fellow into this world-class meeting assistant that by using Fellow, your meetings are going to be productive, effective, delightful, all those things, as if you had this world-class meeting assistant working for you, for your team, for your company the whole way. One of the things that we thought about was, you know, it's been a crazy 2 years, pandemic and all, and I feel a lot of people out there deserve a break. And, you know, I've been thinking about, you know, if I go away, say on vacation for 2 weeks, and then I come back, one of the things that I'd want to do is figure out what is it that I actually missed? So from all the meetings that happen, what is the gist of what I need to know? What's interesting is like, you know, if I had the world's best meeting assistant, they would go out and, you know, they'd tell me everything that I missed. I don't want to watch, you know, 19 videos of recordings of things that happen. I just want to know what were the decisions, what were the key takeaways, and that's pretty much it. And if that could magically happen for me, I'd be very happy.
So how is Fellow going to let you know about the key decisions and takeaways from meetings?
That's a really good question. So we built this new feature that we are calling tags. And the thing about tags is you're probably familiar with, you know, the hashtag, because, you know, on TikTok, Instagram, all these different places, things like this exist. And so what we've done is we've built this directly into Fellow. And so let me show you how it works. So as simple as you know, say that there's a key decision, like we will move into building, you know, XYZ as an example. And if you tag that as like, say, hashtag decision, you can see that it is now tagged with that decision. It's a tag that existed on the system. And so it was auto-completed. And so now that is there, and that talking point is now tagged with that particular hashtag.
That's really cool. So does this mean that when you click on that hashtag, just like you do on social media, you can see other places where this hashtag was used?
That's a good question. Let's find out. So let's click on it. Sure enough, it's exactly that. I mean, just like you can follow hashtags on social media, you can follow key hashtags that you care about to bring forward information from meetings that you're a part of. I think like this is an important point, right? So I'm only going to be able to see content from meetings that I was a part of. I cannot see any meeting that I was not a part of. So your marketing meetings, I cannot see the content because I was not a part of them. But
unless you're invited,
unless I'm invited. Sometimes you invite me to such things, but but only if I'm invited and I'm allowed to see. Then I can see tags from exactly that. The other thing that I don't know if you noticed this, but there's this when I hover over this decision, there's also
a little star. What does that do?
Yeah, so this is, I've actually starred this. And just like you have starred meetings, which are the meetings that you want to get to very quickly, you don't want to go find them in your calendar, and they kind of exist on the left here. We now have this concept of starred tags. And so I can click on decision and see all the decisions that I'm following, and also the takeaways, like any takeaways that I'm following. And all that stuff is very readily accessible in one place for me. And it just makes it so much easier for me to, find the information that I want and find it super readily right within Fellow.
This is awesome, Aiden. Okay, so how do you create a hashtag? Can you? And I'm curious about the color too. Can I choose any color I want?
Yeah, so that's a very good observation, right? So, I mean, let's try it. So let's say that we learned something big. We learned colored meeting notes are great. Okay, so that's the insight. A little bit. So if I start typing this, so it turns out that so let's try something that I don't have yet. So if I call this key insight as an example, you can now click on create new workspace tag, and then you're able to actually choose a color, right? Say for this one, I actually want it to be like orange. That's what I can then use. And this is an important point, right? So when you make one of these tags, it's available for everybody in the workspace. So everybody will see it. So again, choose work-friendly, terms when you're doing this. But the advantage of having workspace-wide tags is that, you're not going to call your decisions key decisions, and I'm going to call them decisions, and someone else is going to call them important decisions. Kind of brings everybody together. So we're using the same terminology across the company. And again, you'll only be able to see content when you search for these tags. You'll only see content from meetings that you are a part of, but the tag itself is something that everybody can use within your workspace.
Aiden, one thing that I really like about these tags being workspace-wide tags is that, for example, leaders could create hashtags to encourage other people to use them in their meetings, right? I could create the hashtag decision, perhaps, although it's already built in Fellow, to encourage my team to track decisions in their meetings. Or one thing that I just thought about is, what if we created hashtags for our company values? Perhaps people could start tracking which shout outs relate to which company value and have a record of how company values were displayed across the team, for example, over the last month.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I love that use case. But, I know another one, for example, is I know you're very proactive about this during your one-on-ones. Like whenever there's like a major achievement that someone on your team has, like you track this stuff. But now it's easier, right? You could just say like hashtag milestone. And at the end of the year, you're doing looking back on the year and giving some career coaching. And you can say let me see all the milestones that this person had throughout the one-on-ones and pull all that stuff out. I mean, the number of things you can do with this is kind of limitless.
Okay, let's ask people who are joining us live. If you have any ideas for how you want to use hashtags, let us know in the comment section.
Oh yeah, I'd be curious to see that.
In the chat section.
I think people are going to be way more creative than we are on the topic. One thing I did want to note is we've done a few more things. So you can now we've enhanced the search experience a little bit. So you can click on search and search for anything you want. You can obviously search for decisions or basically different hashtags that exist, but you can also access your search from a more convenient location. The other thing I wanted to point out is that Command K still works for this, right? You can very quickly jump to a meeting or something that you were recently at and use all the same search functionality as before. And there is one more thing, which is you can use these hashtags for action items as well, right? So, complete project A. And what I want to do is I want to say, this is a high priority. Yeah, this is a high priority tag. And so now when I'm in my action item section, say that I want to start with high priority things first, I can start doing that and say this is the one I want to do. I move it up to today so I can focus on it. And it always feels good to complete an action item. So
that's awesome. One of my favorite things about Fellow as a tool is that it gives people best practices such as track decisions in your meetings. But I think we're also giving people the flexibility flexibility to decide how they want to track these things.
100%. Like that's kind of like a core design tenet for us. I love that. And here's another thing. I'm going to just show everybody like a quick power user move. Whenever there's a decision, you should probably communicate that decision with others on your team. One of my favorite things to do is say that this is a decision and I want to talk about this in all of my one-on-ones. I could start, I could say copy to, and then add that as a talking point to those 3 one-on-ones. And it's just going to be pasted there. So whenever I go do that meeting, now I can talk about talking point or this decision from another meeting. So everything in Fellow is also linked together. The hashtags really kind of bring things together in another way and like really give you the power to organize everything that you're working on. Super powerful.
Yeah, these tags are taking meeting productivity and your meeting notes to the next level.
Fellow's not meant for you to do this, but it's a thing that I do. I think you do some of this as well. Because you can have notes that are not tied to meetings, which we just call a regular stream. Like I personally use this for journaling. Whenever I have a learning, a lesson, or something else, like I'm creating these notes for myself and I'm tagging them. So in the future, I can go back and say, like, find all of my learnings and, it's all tagged and very proper. So there's a lot that this is going to enable. So for meetings, for journaling, for everything, super exciting stuff.
I'm so excited to use tags. Okay, if this is the first feature that we're showing today, I can't imagine what's coming next because this is huge.
Yeah. So, okay. On the theme of the world's greatest meeting assistant that worked for your team and company and was just going to by their sheer presence, they were going to make every meeting productive and delightful. One of the things I thought we'd do something different this time, and let's actually workshop something. We've never done this live, but let's build a meeting from scratch. And specifically what I had in mind was, I know a lot of people do staff meetings, they do team meetings. We have something we call the weekly business review. There's a bunch of things that we do in the weekly business review, but we do in other meetings as well. What we thought was for things that are repetitive, that you want to happen every single time, and you kind of want the meeting, you kind of want Fellow to take care of that for you, right? To go out, get the responses, get everybody to fill in their parts. How does Fellow do that for you for all the repetitive stuff? And so we built something new that we're calling sections, and we're going to show you how that works in building this weekly business review. So in order to do that, what is something that we talk about in our weekly business reviews?
We've read many books and resources on meeting best practices. And I think one best practice is to start with a quick check-in, just asking people how they're feeling. Amazing.
You just come back from a weekend. You don't want to just dive into business right away. You want to, definitely check on people's moods. And so this is a really good one. So basically, let me show you how this works. As you know, in Fellow, there's 2 ways to add things. You can either type / just as this suggests, or you can click on the plus button. What I can actually do is, so if I type in /section, what happens is you get this new modal. And what you can do is if you scroll down, you can choose a bunch of different pre-selected templates that we have. And one of them is called Moodometer. And what I can do is I can require everybody in the meeting to answer this question. And so when I save it, you'll see that I get this nice little dialogue, has a beautiful lightning icon, kind of hinting at, hey, this is an automated sort of thing. And it knows that I'm the meeting attendee, and it even fills in what I need to fill in automatically.
It tells you who is required to add to that section, which is really cool.
100%. So, I don't see your section. I only see my section. And so I can just, obviously super happy today we're doing this launch. And so, I guess that's what you're doing on your side. So you just added your section and now yours, and it just makes it super fast and easy for everybody to add their section. And it's kind of in this automated way, the software is going to help everybody fill out their relevant section.
Yeah. It's like Fellow is the assistant that goes out and reminds to fill out this section of the agenda.
100%. So
another thing that we do is update each other on what are our priorities for the week, and maybe challenges or blockers that we might be having.
100%. This is a very common thing, right? Some people do this as a stand-up. Other people do it as a section as part of the meeting. This is one of those things that can actually be asynchronous as well, right? And it's really interesting the way that we do our meetings. I think a lot of people, our meetings are done really interesting because we always have an asynchronous section, and then we always have like a synchronous section. And
discussion points. Yeah,
exactly. And so let's show everybody how that works. So I'm going to type /section again. This time I'm going to choose one of the other templates that we have. So in this particular case, maybe roundtable check-in, nuisance / check-in, priorities, blockers, or actually, I kind of like this one more, roundtable updates and wins, priorities and blockers. So again, I'm going to require everybody in the meeting to answer this. And by the way, you don't have to do that. You can also say, no, I just want specific users and like type who those are, but I'm going to get everybody to do it this time. And so when I add that in, that gets added, and you can see that it's basically saying, hey, Aiden, you've got to figure out, you've got to answer these questions. And so when you start typing, it's getting you to answer your sections. And it kind of does this in this automated way. And what's really nice about this is, Fellow's going to do the legwork too, right? It isn't just say, hey, here's a template and get everybody to fill it out. It knows who's in the meeting, right? And so if you change the meeting attendees, it's going to only allow those meeting attendees to fill this out. And it's going to remind you, it's built into our notification system. So if you're using Slack or you're using MS Teams, it will message you and tell you, hey, you've got this thing coming up and you've got to fill out this section, because remember, no agenda, no attenda. And so we've got to make sure everybody's doing their part and filling in the appropriate sections. And so that's another super powerful thing.
This just takes away the pressure from the meeting organizer to remind everyone, hey, can you fill out the agenda? Hey, can you please update people on what you're working on? It's just like Fellow is going out and reminding people that they are required to add talking points to a specific section.
100%. And so I guess so the other thing to point out is that we have a bunch of templates built in. So you can obviously save these as templates and get them to be reoccurring. Over the course of time, as you know, we have the world's largest meeting template library. And so one of the things I wanted to show you is like what some of the default templates might look like. So this is something for a sales huddle where every attendee is required to fill out this section and their top focus and their roadblocks as an example. Here's another one for a daily stand-up where, there's like a traffic light confidence question and then a check-in question. And then if there are discussion questions. So this kind of gives you an idea of like the different sorts of templates that you can create. And again, it's just, you don't have to type in the people's names or attendees. Like Fellow's just going to make it easy for everybody to answer those questions. And so I think that's super powerful.
Okay, so we have the Moodometer, we have the updates. I think another thing that we usually add, of course, is a talking point section for people to add things that they want to discuss.
Yeah, so yeah, we can definitely do that.
So can you do that as a section to remind people that they're also required to add to that
100%.
section of the meeting now?
So all of these things are turning into these blocks. And so what's really nice is now these new sections allow you to do things like there's a plus button. You'll notice there's a plus button here. When I click on the plus button, it's just like easier and faster to add these things. And of course, I mean, like you mentioned, I can also add a section, which is so all of our, the standard headings that we had before, those now exist. And so you can use those as well in this new format, and it has this plus button. But of course, you can have these kind of like smart sections that have like these default templates as well. And so again, like sections just makes it faster, easier, more automated to build these meeting agendas and get Fellow to do the legwork. So for example, the talking points, everybody's not required to answer or put anything in the talking points, right? But the updates, we actually require people to do that. And previously in Fellow, you couldn't really do that. To say, hey, everybody, we require you to do this part and this part in advance, and this other part is only if you have something to talk about. But now Fellow makes it possible for you to run these sorts of dynamic meetings. I just think it just gives you so much power.
Okay, and there's one more thing that I think we're missing in this meeting note for how we run our weekly business reviews, and that is objectives. We usually review some of the key results that need discussion or need comments.
Yeah, so that's really interesting, right? So yeah, I mean, typically we do like a goal review section. I mean, this is a thing that you want to do on some sort of a cadence, right? And so if I create a goal review section, what I can do is, if you notice in our last release, one of the things we talked about is now goals are built into Fellow. So if you have objectives and key results, you can, like that Fellow now allows for you to do that. And the really nice thing about Fellow doing that for you is that it's embedded, like you can have it as part of your meeting. So you'll notice in our weekly business review, I've created a filter to show us the objectives that relate to that meeting. It's really nice to be able to see all those objectives there. But one of the things is sometimes you want to review some key results, more frequent basis, and track some things. And not have to go to another tab and you just want it right there in the agenda. So what we've done is we've added the ability for you to embed that. So again, if you type / and then you click on the queue results option, you can again like filter by teams or cycles, but basically you can, very quickly add a bunch of these key results and they get embedded right within your agenda as well. And this is updated real time, right? Oh, and that's really cool. Yeah, you can, I guess, react to these things. And then of course, Fellow has commenting. So you can say great progress, for example, and then add that as a comment as well. I mean, this is really powerful, right? So if you can think about all the information that Fellow helps you bring together in one place, it's getting everybody's mood for the meeting. You can see all the information from where people are at with their goals in one shot. You can see everybody's updates. And a lot of that, all of that is asynchronous and can be done asynchronously. So when you enter into your meeting, all that information is there at a glance. You have all of that, and then you haven't even started your talking point. So then you can actually do the discussion portion of the meeting. So I think this is just super powerful. And once you have that, of course, you can just save it as a template, and you can make it, if you have this checked off, that can be the template by default for every meeting, every occurrence of that meeting in that meeting stream. It's just, the power of sections, embedding goals directly into your agenda. I mean, this is really becoming the world's greatest meeting assistant.
It is, Aiden. It is. I'm very impressed with this sections feature and the ability to embed OKR. So how else are we helping people be more productive during their meetings?
Yeah. So I think there's two more things that I'll mention super quickly. We think that every meeting should have an objective, right? So for the weekly business review, you now have the ability to add an objective or a description for every meeting. So if I click on add a description here, I would say keep track of progress, maybe triage issues. So this is the purpose of this meeting. I can save and close that. And now that's there for everybody to see. Highly useful. Please go do this for all your meetings. The other thing I wanted to mention is we now have a meeting timer. Studies show that just by having a timer in there, you're more likely to end your meeting on time. You can see that that's there, and there's an end meeting button. Anybody in the meeting can click the end meeting button. I don't know, do you want to click the end? I'll let you do the honors of clicking the end meeting button.
I'll click end meeting to see what happens.
Yeah. What's really nice about this is obviously when you do that, it is going to show you the time of the meeting, and it records that, and we're going to use that at a later time. But one thing that we haven't really turned on is, and we'll just mention it here and you'll start noticing this, is that when you click on that end meeting button, we also ask you for feedback on the meeting. So because I've already responded to this particular meeting, it didn't ask me, but if you had not given feedback for that meeting, you would see a pop-up that would ask you to rate that meeting as well. So the other thing that we're doing in the background, again, the world's greatest meeting assistant, is automatically requesting feedback for every meeting. So it's just all the things that you would expect in the most perfect meeting. Fellow is doing all that stuff for you, and it's doing it automatically.
I love that. So let's go back to our agenda from today's event. We talked about tags, we talked about sections, embedded OKRs, stream descriptions, meeting timer, the feedback modal. Talked about so much, and we still have other members of the team coming to talk about other features.
So that was, again, so we just did part one. And of course, we have so much more going on today. We're gonna also talk to you about, once there's more than 3 to 5 people using Fellow, you start to need a different set of features, right? So we really care about the organization, the enterprise at large, larger teams, department. We're now gonna move into part 2 of the event, where we're gonna be talking about Fellow for the enterprise. And so there's one thing I wanted to cover very quickly. For me, I just recently hired a chief of staff, and I know a lot of senior leaders have assistants, or they have executive assistants that work as part of the team. And one of the things that we've heard often is, well, how do we give access to, people on our team that are acting in this EA or assistant type role? How do we give them access to our meetings, our one-on-one, so that they can help us organize everything all throughout? And so one thing that we built is this new concept called delegated access. I'm not going to go through it in a lot of detail, but what I will say that it now exists, and that you can then use it and give anybody in. So you can see that I've given Amin delegated access to my account, which means that it's very easy for him. He can just like very quickly, there's going to be an icon that allows him to switch in between himself and like his account and then my account. But all this to say is like, if you do have an EA on your team, or you do have an assistant or someone that needs to do things on your behalf, Fellow now allows you to do that. So we can definitely turn that on for you. So I'm very excited about it. For people who need this, it's going to be a game changer. But that's one of the features I want to talk about. But I think Shannon, who's our product manager for enterprise, has a lot of exciting things to talk about. So Shannon, take it away.
Shannon, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Manuela, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to share the updates we've been working on. Before I get into it, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Shannon Lahead. I'm a senior product manager here at Fellow. And now let's get into these exciting updates.
Awesome.
Okay, so the first update I want to show you was the top requested feature from our customers that are currently using OKRs with their teams. And what this feature was to be able to provide context to their team members about what's going on with their OKRs and what the progress is. So we've added a commenting feature. So you can add a standalone comment to be able to share with your team an update about that OKR. And we've also added within this panel updates that have happened to that objective or its key results, which you can add a comment to be able to share with your team additional context.
So this means that you can comment on someone else's update?
Yeah, you can comment on someone else's update, or you can add your own comment to be able to provide additional context. For example, here I shared that I updated based on last week's report. And also this week I added that there have been no changes so that my team knows that I did stay on top of my OKR. There's just nothing to update at this time.
That's super helpful.
So another change that we've also introduced based on feedback from our customers is key result types. So you'll now see number, percentage, and currency, so you can more easily communicate to your team what the value of that key result is. Another thing we've also added is the ability to duplicate an objective. So you can do that by clicking on duplicate, which will create a copy of everything about that objective and its key results. And this came as a request from our customers for a couple different reasons. Some teams like to be able to use the OKRs from their last cycle as a starting point for their OKRs in the next cycle. Or we heard from some managers, if they're making individual OKRs for their team, they want to be able to duplicate those so they don't have to put in the same information when they're similar across the different team members.
Yeah, I can see the marketing team doing this with some of our objectives. They sometimes repeat or are very similar from the previous quarter. So I can see myself creating duplicates. That's really, really helpful as well.
So now that we go back to the main view where you can see all of your OKRs, and you can also filter to view all the OKRs within your organization, we've also added the ability to quickly update an OKR so you can make a change and then be on your way. There's one last update that I want to share with you, and that is that we've optimized objectives so that they can be shown in both on mobile and in narrow width. So what that means is if you have the Chrome extension and you're using it either to prep for a meeting in your calendar or within a meeting that you're in, you'll now see the objectives tab show if you have that enabled for your stream. So you can view all the objectives and key results that it's been filtered to, and you can also make changes to that objective or its key results while you're in the meeting, so you don't have to flip context. You can also see within your stream key results that you've embedded, which I know Aiden showed us previously.
That's amazing. So this means you can update objectives and even create new OKRs right within the Chrome extension if you're, for example, meeting on Google Meet.
Exactly.
Awesome. So we're back in Fellow. So we talked about delegated access with Aiden. You told us about the enhancements for OKRs. I know you have one last thing to tell us before we move on to part 3 of the event.
Yeah, so the last update I want to share is that we now support an integration with OKTA. And so we know OKTA is a top identity and access management product that a lot of our enterprise customers use. And so with this integration, our customers can now securely manage their users' access to Fellow and be able to automate that onboarding and offboarding process of those users. So you can configure OKTA as a single sign-on provider, and also user provisioning can be set up with the SCIM protocol.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shannon. Those are some great updates. I know a lot of our customers will be very happy with those two things, OKR enhancements and OKTA. And now, without further ado, we're going to move on to part 3 of the event, where Arsalan is going to tell us how we're making the guest user experience more delightful.
Well, I'm Arsalan. I'm one of the product people at Fellow. I'm working on different types of projects. And guest users enhancement is one of the projects that I was recently involved with. This is a very powerful tool. So we were wondering why stop there. As you said, the experience was already good, but we were wondering why stop there and why not make it the best it could be. So we talked with our customers, we looked at the funnel, we looked at the data, we dug deeper, and we decided that there are a couple of things that we could do that would make a huge difference in the experience. And so we decided on our approach, which had 2 pillars: be laser focused on the job to be done of the guests, and also minimizing the cognitive load of the guests, because they're probably not very familiar with Fellow. So we had to be super concise and super descriptive in our communications and just be laser focused on what needs to be done on the guest part to make that experience better. So that's what we did. Okay, so let's say we have a weekly meeting with a contractor or marketing agency, then we want to collaborate with them on Fellow. The only thing that we have to do is just share this stream with them, input their email, invite them as a new guest, confirm, and then they receive an email letting them know that they're invited to collaborate on this stream with them. And as they click on the stream, then they click on the link in the email and they land on the stream that was shared with them. There you go. And
that was so fast.
Yeah, I know. No extra steps, nothing that is not contributing to the collaboration experience. They could just land on the stream, add to the talking points, add action items, assign action items, and after the meeting is concluded, they could just give meeting feedback to it to make sure that everybody is trying to improve the quality of these meetings. And we also have made these new changes in the overall experience of the guests. As you could see, it is much cleaner than it was before. We are not showing anything that is not related to the experience of a guest user. We're not showing the meetings panel. We're not showing the feedback panel in general. Those are the things that the guests generally cannot benefit from. So we are just stripping off their experience of those so they can be just focused on the thing that they're here to do and then just go on about it day to day.
That's awesome. So Arsalan, one piece of feedback that I know we heard from agencies, and especially the agencies that I work with, for example, was that in the past, they weren't able to create their own notes before I started an agenda. And I see now there's a plus button on the notes. So does that mean that guest users can now create and start their own notes?
Exactly. Good catch. And
that's
that
awesome.
is one of the things that, as you said, we've heard in our customer interviews, the ability to add a new note to a stream before the organizer actually does that was one of the things that we heard a lot. So that we just enabled that, and now a guest could just add a note to a stream and collaborate before the meeting happens and before the organizer adds that new note. These
are some amazing enhancements. I know it's the little things, right, that make the user experience delightful, as we like to say at Fellow. So thank you so much, Arsalan, for showing us these enhancements, for working on them. And now, without further ado, we're going to move on to part 4 of the event. So Alexandra, a senior engineering manager at Fellow, is here to tell us about 2 very exciting integrations. Alexandra, welcome to our Fellow 3.2 event. How are you?
I'm great, Manuela. Thanks. How are you doing?
I'm great. Super excited to hear about the integrations that your team has built. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what's new?
Yeah, so the first thing that we're really excited to introduce is our new integration with ClickUp. So ClickUp is a project management action item tracking tool, and we have built out an integration with it very similar to the one that we already have with Asana and Jira that I know that we've been using a little bit internally, and this is going to be a really great integration because even though it's great tracking your action items in Fellow, we know that sometimes it makes sense to have a dedicated place where you want to keep track of the many, many action items, especially if you're tracking projects and things across many weeks. So what we've done is we've built this integration so that you can either individually send action items from your Fellow meetings directly to a board in ClickUp, or you can set up the entire stream to send all new action items created within a particular stream over to ClickUp. So I think this is going to be really, really great for making sure that nothing falls through the cracks and all of your action items are in one place and easy to work with for the whole team.
So what's the second integration that you have today for us?
The second integration is with a whole suite of Google Documents. So you may have noticed that in Fellow Notes, I think last time we did a launch event, we introduced the ability to embed things like YouTube videos, Spotify podcasts, all sorts of interactive content within your notes. That makes it super fun, a little bit fun to play with, especially when you start putting GIFs in there and things to kind of liven up the meeting notes. But what we've done this time around is we've added the ability to embed Google Sheets, Google Slides, and Google Docs in your meeting notes too. So I really like this, especially the Google Slides portion, because a lot of meetings have slideshows, especially our weekly town halls. We have a lot of presentations from people. And now instead of just putting a link so that you can jump over to a full new tab with the slideshow in it, we can display that right within Fellow. So you don't have to leave the note and you can scroll through the slides there. Same with spreadsheets. No longer do you have to open up a new tab and look at it elsewhere. It's all within there. You can collapse it so that it doesn't take up much space, or you can expand it and look at it within the note. But I've been really, really loving that.
Okay, I love that. That sounds really helpful to have all your slideshows, your spreadsheets embedded within the Fellow node. And I think someone from your team is coming to show us a live demo of this, right?
Yes, I'm so excited. Ellie from the engineering team is going to demo both of these things, and I can't wait to see what she has to show.
Okay, so let's welcome Ellie and check out these two integrations.
Hi guys, I'm Ellie. I'm one of the engineers here at Fellow. I'm going to tell you about two of the new features that we're rolling out with Fellow 3.2. First of all, we now have a new integration with ClickUp, and second, we now support embeds with Google Docs. These have been two of our very highly requested features, and so we're really excited to roll them out for you. So when I want to set up ClickUp, I'm going to go to my User Apps and Integrations settings. We have the new card here, and I can just select Connect from the menu. It will authenticate me through ClickUp, and then I can choose which workspace I want to sync with. It's great because you can actually choose multiple workspaces and choose between them when you want to connect from the stream. So I'll connect both of these. It'll send me back to Fellow and confirm with the toast. Now, when I'm in a meeting and I want to choose one of my to-dos to send to ClickUp, I can just select it from the kebab menu, like this. So I'll choose one of the workspaces that I set up, let's say my personal one. I choose my project space. I don't have any folders here yet, but I do have a list that I can send it to, and this is a dev to-do, so I'll send it there. I can confirm what the text will be, and then I'll send it over. Once this is closed, it will show a pill beneath the action item, showing that it's been linked to ClickUp. If I click on this, it will take me to ClickUp and show the action item. Here I can see all of the information about the task, the name, the stream, the assignee. And if I go back to Fellow and change anything, it will also sync over. So for instance, if this is due on the 28th, this will sync over. The grayscale means that it's syncing. I wait a little bit, and when it's back to full color, I go to ClickUp, and I can see that the due date is now Monday. What's great about the ClickUp integration is that it is a two-way sync between ClickUp and Fellow, which means that any changes done in the ClickUp task here will show up in my stream. Let's say I change the text here, and I say additional info. When I go back to Fellow, I'll see the update there, and it will show that it's syncing. So this applies for the text, the due date, the status, whether it's checked off, as well as the assignees. So this means that we will sync assignees based on the email addresses. As long as they match in Fellow and ClickUp, you can assign to anyone on your team. Finally, I can configure ClickUp at the stream level, same as Asana. So if I go to my stream settings here, I go to the Integrations tab, which now also contains Asana. I can choose a workspace, folder, list, all configure that for every single to-do in the entire stream. This is great if you know where you want to send every single action item for an entire meeting. So next I'm going to show you our new Google Docs embeds. And what's great about this integration is that people can now follow along with your shared content without losing focus from the meeting. And we think that's really valuable. So let's say I have a Google Slides presentation and I want to put it in my note. I'll go ahead and use the modal here to embed. Paste the link here, it recognizes this is Google Slides. I'll embed it and it shows up in my note. So I can now cycle through these slides. I can use presentation controls. I can do a whole bunch of other stuff. And if I don't want to use the embed modal, I can just paste a link. Let's say this time I have a Google document. Paste it right in there. We still have access to the link as well as seeing the embedded content. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed these features as much as we do. Next, I'm going to pass it along to Vahid Josie, who is Fellows Head of Partnerships, and he's going to share an announcement about our new community program.
Hey everyone, I'm Vahid from Fellow. You've had a full day. How about all those amazing features we just announced? My favorite one is delegated access. We've had a number of partners reach out to us for features that helps them service their customers better. And delegated access is definitely that. Today, I want to announce our community program. This program is geared towards all those Slack communities, founder communities, podcasts, newsletters, anywhere that members go in for amazing content and great connections. If you're a community, hit us up so we can support you with Fellow credits. When we announced our startup program a few weeks ago, a number of startups reached out and asked us for us to support them, even if they're not part of an accelerator or a VC. So today, I'm super excited to announce our new community partner, MICROACQUIRE. As of today, every startup part of the MICROACQUIRE community gets $1,000 of Fellow credits. We love supporting you, we're rooting for you, and if you need anything we can do, reach out to us. All right, you don't have to listen to me anymore. But hold up, the next guy you want to stick around for. If you have questions, he happens to have answers.